Welcome one, welcome all to episode 175 of the Xbox Expansion Pass, recorded on Saturday, April 29th, 2023. I'm your host, Luke Lohr, the InsipidGhost, joined by my co-host, the intrepid Captain Logun. And in this episode, we offer our early review impressions for Jedi Survivor. We'll touch on the CMA's decision to block the Activision acquisition, and we'll discuss the general doom and gloom that seems to be surrounding the Xbox brand at the moment. As always, we hope you enjoy the show. Logan, we like to start the show by offering words of kindness to those who have made our gaming weeks better. But first, how are you, my friend?
I am trying to mentally be here.
Okay. Okay.
This is a very interesting week. So I've had plans to celebrate the anniversary, my 10-year anniversary with my wife for a few weeks now. And we've been kind of like prepping for that.
Right.
And it's nothing major. We're just going out. We're a couple of best friends. So we're just going out to a movie and having a brunch and having a nice day of it.
Mm-hmm.
My throat has been like raw for some reason. And I came down with a migraine yesterday. Mm-hmm. So like, everything in the universe was trying to come against me from having a good day today. Mm-hmm. So while we're recording this, I'm having a great day. So it's we're
well, there we are.
It's a great day, let me tell you.
Okay. All right.
So,
well, I was going to give a shout out to one of my students on this episode. So thanks for that.
Yeah, they're going to learn what censorship is. Kids, censorship is great. It's great.
Bringing a co-host, they said. Up the beat, they said. Here we are.
No,
well, I'm sorry you're not feeling good, dude. Thanks.
Well, that's why I'm looking forward to getting to the words of kindness, because I actually have a really great shout out this week. But what are your words of kindness?
Oh, well, let's see. This week, I want to shout out two people. First, we were able to do our giveaway for Jedi Survivor, which was awesome.
Oh, yeah, we did. I didn't win.
You did not win. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, buddy.
It's okay, because someone else didn't win, and I was 100% okay with that as well, too.
Okay. All right, cool. Now I have curiosities there. But our friend Shell DeCalway, he's a new listener, like a new subscriber. He was one that entered the contest. He won. Congratulations to Shell. He redeemed it, and he's playing Jedi Survivor already. But it was clear that he not only won, but then he went and checked out the show and listened to it. And so that was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so words of kindness go to Shell.
As long as Hometown Hero didn't win it. That was the other
I would
person.
never let that fool win. He's crazy.
Right.
He's a ginger and he wants to play as a ginger in Star Wars, and I want to deny him happiness. So
isn't it kind of weird we're giving gingers the spotlight in Star Wars? It's a little odd to me. Like,
it was odd when Cal Kestis, because we don't have a lot of redheaded heroes, but it was nice to see. Actually, I ended up really.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Aloy. I don't know about Cal. You know, he's coming on a little hot. He's looking a little attractive. I'm like, okay, you know what? Sit down, calm down. You don't got to be this guy. I saw that. We'll get into it.
Okay. Well, I want to give one more shout out.
Okay. Who do you got?
To Anthony. Anthony has been chatting me up nonstop about his adventures in Apex of late. And he's playing a lot of Apex Legends. That's like his game. And so I've heard a lot about Apex, which is a game that I don't play actively anymore. But it was just cool to see and hear the excitement from him about what he's enjoying. So shout out to Anthony. That's awesome.
Apex has come a long way, man. It's amazing just how many I've lost track of the heroes that they have now and what they do. Like I used to know them all. Mm-hmm. Now I have no clue. In this case, I would say shout out to Sarah over at the Apex Legends team. She does some of the marketing for them. I believe she does marketing. She might do content outreach. Okay. Can't quite remember what her job is, but she's a fan. She used to work for Blizzard and then moved over to Apex, and she's working for Apex now. And I love seeing her tweets because she's always so excited about the Apex updates.
That's cool. Nice. Shout out to Sarah. There you go. What are your words of kindness?
So I was thinking about putting this as a story. I will probably talk about it more in the coming weeks for Keelhauled, but George Orton is one of the designers over at Rare Studios. He basically organized a charity event for Special Effect, which is like the UK's version of Able Gamers, which is kind of Steven Spawn's charity, which is they drive to try and help get people set up with the tools that they need and understanding like what tools they'll need for just different disabilities. You know, just doesn't really matter what it is. They've got the Xbox accessibility kit going, and they run a bunch of buttons and switches and stuff depending on needs. And he did a 24-hour stream in the UK. They got a whole bunch of different studios, all of like the Microsoft studios in the UK together. They had 22 teams. They had 11 soccer or football matches that were 90 minutes. They did 24 hours of football for charity, and they raised £29,000, which is about $30,000 for Special Effect. And I was just like the whole time. And this dude, I kid you not, you do coaching for like kid soccer, right?
Yeah.
So imagine if you had to be out on the field, and he was out on the field. He was like a striker for the most time. He did like 5 matches, no sleep. And he was like man of the match most of the games.
Oh,
like,
wow.
He got hat tricks. He was put like the last match after 24 hours, he got a hat trick in the last game. He scored 4 goals straight, and it was insane. And it was just, so shout out to George Orton for doing that. Cause that was his baby. He worked with Special Effect. He worked with Rare. And it was an amazing 24 hours. I learned so much football. I had no idea what football. We've watched Ted Lasso. We love Ted Lasso, but dude, I had no clue what football really was. It's been a long time since I played soccer as a kid, you know, little leagues and stuff. But man, dude, I can't imagine doing 24 hours of football and participating in most of it.
That's cool, dude. That's awesome. I like seeing that. I like hearing that. That's awesome. I think I saw some clips from that and whatnot. Anytime people put together charity matches like that and it feels like a charity match, that's awesome. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, they did such a good job. A lot of work, a lot of people involved.
Yeah. Well, Logan, let's do a shout out to our Patreon members this week. Is it your week or mine to read the names?
I think it's yours.
It's my week. All right. You got to follow along.
Sure it's yours.
All right. We want to say thank you to everybody that subscribes over on patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass. We are over 20 patrons at this point, which is amazing. And we give shout outs every week to our tier 2 and 3 patrons at the $5 or higher tier. Thank you guys so much for helping us do all sorts of things over here at XEP and, of course, Keelhauled. We want to give shout outs this week to Hafrican, a.k.a. Charles Jones, Game Positive, Zach LeCoulter, Jam Pack Sam, Matt Valdez, Neoprime 33, Rick Davis, Red Beast, Xbox Mike 29, Matt Without Fear, the Lord Sir Master James Suddy, Brendan Myers, aka the Winter Gamer, Sony's VP of Marketing Kevin Butler, Clint Coombs, DJ Hero, and Dano12. Thank you guys so much for supporting us over on patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass. It means the absolute world when I get those emails. And even more enjoyable is just jumping in Discord and chatting with all of you guys. Anybody can jump in at the $3 tier and join our Discord. It is such a good time. It's feel goods all around. And so shout out to everybody there. We appreciate you guys. All right, Logan, we have an Xbox wrap-up show to do this week. We need to make sure we get on that.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We got to chat on. Yeah, we got to do that. All right. If you missed it, guys, I had put up the creator talk with Randall Thor 19 over on the Patreon tier. And then, of course, going public to everybody was the Lord Cognito episode. But, Logan, let's get into our news this week. Dead Island 2 has sold 1 million units in its first 3 days of being released. To me, this is a huge win. I enjoy Dead Island a lot. We did a really good review last week on the show. So if you guys missed that, check it out. But for a game that was in development hell for so long and really struggled to get out the door. It came out performing quite well, and then of course selling quite well. I was really happy with this.
Dude, like seriously, like this game has surprised me because it's one of those ones. It's like, it's going to be last gen. It's going to be next gen. How good is it going to be? A lot of different people have been touching it and stuff. And honestly, I posed the question to the Player One podcast, not to try and bait them for the Zelda talk, but and I thought it was really interesting because it seems like Dead Island 2 is effectively Dead Island 1, but with better graphics and a little more upscaling on like UI elements and stuff like that. But
that's how I gotta
say, yeah. But you know what? If you wanted like just a remastered version of Dead Island 1, this is effectively a great way to get that. So it's like, for fans of Dead Island, like they must be like living it up because this game is sold really well. It's good that they got out of the way of Star Wars Jedi, and I think we'll get into reasons why in a little bit after that. It was fantastic seeing them come up with the flesh system, because I think and we just saw an update to Dying Light 2 where they introduced a gore system as well, which was really kind of cool to see them trying to be like, hey, we do it too. It's not just them. You can slash the zombies in our game. So I'm glad.
Boy, this is weird. Okay.
There was a very nerdy guy over there. He was very passionate, very passionate.
Okay. It was the actually guy. Actually. Okay.
Yeah. That's who I go to in my mind. I don't know if that comes across, but that's who I actually.
Yep.
So it was so great to see Dead Island 2 get its roses, as Cog would say. And have that opportunity to live in the limelight. There was some serious FOMO for me. I was definitely like, I kind of want to go slash some zombies. It looks like so much fun.
Yeah, and I said I'd get you a code.
I know, but I don't want to abuse that. I'll buy it later when I have time to pick it up and stuff. So I'm not too worried about that.
I'll take care of that for you.
No, it's okay. It's Luke.
Well, let's give it some flowers here. Deep Silver, they shared that 11 million total hours have been played in Dead Island 2, which is incredible. And of course, I played a great chunk of it. Really enjoyed it. Like it's the review is in our last week's episode, but I just want to say, like, after playing several games that aren't performing well right now, like in performance mode and don't run well, Dead Island 2 works. You paid $70 and the game works. That's great to hear. 28 million total player deaths. That's twice as many as the population of Los Angeles. 28 million number of players have died. 45 million zombies have been sliced in half. 756 million zombies' limbs have been hacked off, and 1.1 billion zombies killed in Dead Island 2. And this game came out like a week ago. That's awesome. Like that's fun, cool stuff. These factoids don't mean anything, but they're fun.
Okay. So I'm trying to do some back of the napkin math here. So if 1 million units sold, 11 million hours played, at least everyone that bought the game played roughly an average of about a few hours. But if you broke it down, it'd be about 10 hours per person for 1 million people. In those 10 hours, they killed 75 zombies or 75. They hacked off 75 limbs at least for each of those 1 million people. And I'm trying to think, at least 4.5 zombies were sliced in half by each person.
At least 7 people are doing this math with you and either agreeing or disagreeing.
Yep. And you know what? It's solid math because I graduated high school, which means that I have all the tools necessary to equip me for the future.
There you go. Done. Done. But I like these little factoid things games release. Like I think they're a good time. This is fun. But Dead Island 2, man, it's in a 2-week period where I've been playing Jedi Survivor, and that's got performance issues all up the wazoo. And then I think people are gonna be real disappointed when Redfall hits because it's not running well. I'm not playing it, by the way. I don't have a review. I did not do an embargo, sign an NDA. I don't have the game. But if we had all those documented performance problems, and just wink and a nod, I'm telling you right now, it's not things that we're gonna be swimming in sevens. It's there's some performance issues, and I'm frustrated by this consistent performance issue in general, which we'll talk about after we talk Jedi Survivor, because I've got a bone to pick with the world. I want to yell at a cloud.
Okay.
But let's talk about Jedi Survivor in general. A lot of reviews coming out prior to the game's release, and they are critically fantastic. VGC 5 out of 5, Games Radar 4.5 out of 5, Twinfinite 4.5 out of 5, PSU and Gaming Trend both 9.5, Game Informer 9.25, IGN Inverse, Push Square, Tech Raptor, True Gaming all giving the game a 9, 6-Axis, Shack News, and PC Gamer all giving it an 8. Metacritic sitting at 87, OpenCritic 86. Whether you put stock in Metacritics or not, critically, this game is well received, and people are quite happy with it. We were talking prior to the show. I'm about 6 to 10 hours in, and I can't tell you where I actually am in that because I've lost progress multiple times due to crashing. Which is really frustrating. The way the checkpoint system and the save system works similar to Dark Souls or similar to Jedi Fallen Order if you played the first one, which would make sense, obviously. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that when you get crashes, you lose progress because you haven't gotten to a save location, like a meditation point. So
that's so interesting.
I'm frustrated by that. I can't tell you how long I've been, like how far I've progressed. I know where I am in the story, which I won't spoil a thing for anybody. But
do you know what you're are you still on the first planet?
Nope. The first planet is in all the trailers and whatnot, and it's a pretty well-known planet for everybody. It's a city planet. There you go. And so
I was talking about never mind.
Whatever.
I always forget that first one is technically a planet.
Yep, sure is. And so when I got to the actual, like the open world elements, the performance has dipped majorly for me. And that has been beyond frustrating. Now, some tips for everybody that have worked. If you're on console, turn off performance mode because performance mode does not perform. Turn off performance mode. That has helped a lot on console for me to reduce the number of like hitching and whatnot. And it stays a bit more locked in terms of frame rate. That hasn't stopped a crashing issue for me or like weird bugs that are popping up. But it has helped a lot with like the hitching. But there have been a couple times in these first six to 10 hours or so where I am loving my experience with Jedi Fallen Order story, combat, world. It's fantastic. Like just if anyone's watching the video version, like I have the Cal Kestis collector's edition lightsaber and whatnot. And I absolutely love it. Like this thing is beautiful. It's hefty. It's a Galaxy's Edge saber. I love Star Wars and, I'm in on this game, but the performance issues have led me multiple times to just saying, nope, I'm done for an hour. I'm done for a bit. I'm frustrated by the performance, but I'm really liking everything else. They don't depower Cal at the beginning, which to me is just wonderful because you spend all the first game leveling up. I don't like when they depower you. And so you feel like a Jedi. You are a Jedi Knight to start this game. And I like that.
Yeah. I'm actually having a hell of a time with this. So, nice. Again, I really have to preface this. I had a migraine yesterday and I got a few hours the night before I had the migraine and I got a more time in yesterday. So I checked my stats last night before I quit. I'm 10 hours in at least. I've got about 16% found on the second planet. The first planet was an excellent prologue, an absolute excellent. It was a cold open. It was beautiful. They did a great job of bringing you into the world again. And oh man, I at the whole time I'm sitting there going through it and I'm like, this is the tutorial, but it feels like the opener to an episode. For a show. And I'm like, it felt really, really fun. I've been switching back and forth between performance and quality mode. I will concur. Not really. Like it's because here's my thing is I've been going to the meditation points, which is the save system, and I won't rest. I will just meditate, and so that way it's saved. And anytime I kill like a major enemy or something like that, or a pack of enemies and stuff, I'll go, if I'm near one, I'll go and save. Otherwise I'll push forward and find the next one. But I've been switching between my Xboxes because I've been going between a 1080 60 frames per second monitor here in the office compared to my L1 C1 no yeah my LG C1 OLED out in the living room that has VRR, and I've been playing with performance mode off because I've found that the OLED with the VRR has smoothed out a lot of the rough edges that this game has and given me a solid enough experience that it feels like, every time, and I was thinking in my head the other day, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if the devs were just like, hey, performance mode? Well, we're going to make performance mode not really performance mode. So you're going to live in quality and you're going to like it. Because that's what they want. Like they want it would be funny if like the quality mode was the best mode because that was the one that they wanted people to actually stay in as opposed to dropping the resolution and going for the frames. I'm still hoping that eventually we'll get a world where we'll get both. I would still love to have a game that is like 4K 60 frames per second locked. Like that would be that's the dream, right? But overall, I'm playing on Jedi Knight, which I think is the default. And
that's what I'm playing on as well.
Okay. And I've got 5 stim canisters right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I've been going after some of the bigger challenges in there. And oh man, some of the fights in there, they're like, hey, you can drop it down to difficulty if you're, and I'm like, no, I'm a Jedi Knight. You son of a bee. I'm going to kill this thing. And
I also went in at Jedi Knight, and I have the standard number of canisters, which is you start with 3. I have not progressed to that point, and it's frustrating because I feel like I'm doing all the side rumors and like whatnot. So I'm wondering if maybe you've just progressed further in the game. I need to note, I should have said this at the top of our discussion. I was sent a review code for this one. So while I have the collector's edition, I bought it and everything else, I was sent a review code. So I needed to make that clear. But I am really enjoying the world a lot. And I know some people lament this comparison, but I think it's a good one. It feels very Breath of the Wild in that you had a section where you started off and you got acclimated to your game, and then you go to a new planet, new plane, and it opens up. There are optional objectives to do. There's a main story. There are literally shrines that you can go in and do some puzzle solving to enhance your character. There's a lot to unlock, a lot of customization options, which is really cool. Side quests, character quests. I'm really enjoying how much this offers. This to me is far and away double, if not triple, the size of Fallen Order based on what I've just seen so far. Fallen Order is a very linear experience by comparison. And
this more Metroid.
This feels to me like an open world Star Wars game, and I don't know that the term open world can truly apply here, but it feels like one. You've got a hub. Yeah, to me it feels open world. Some people might call it wide linear in some ways, but to me this is not a linear game at all, and there's a lot of ways to progress based on my experience so far. Regardless, there's a lot to do, and I like it. A lot of diverse things to do, which is cool. I have been frustrated by a couple fights against like some mini bosses, and I can't tell if it's my lack of skill or like a delayed input timing thing. I really don't know. I cannot
the parry
tell.
Window. There's a couple boss fights that I had where I was like, I thought I had blocked that. And there's one that I was like, I can't remember how the heck I'm supposed to tackle this, and it hasn't given me the prompt on how to counter it. And I think it's a parry move, but when and this isn't a mechanic that they had in the first one, but when an enemy turns blue, it's a heavy attack that I think you can parry. And I haven't been able to land that.
Red, you have to dodge.
Yeah, so that's been an interesting one because every time I've been hit by some of the mini bosses that have the red attack, it's been like almost an instant kill. And I'm like, ooh, am I too under leveled for this? Like, should I have been able to survive that? And at that point, I'm like, all right, well, it doesn't matter. I got to go get my experience back. So
that is a similar experience to me. And I having played a lot of Gotham Knights, where it's all about dodging, I'm used to a very good dodge, where a dodge like means something, because Gotham Knights has a similar dodge feeling mechanic in the way that it's third person B button. It just feels similar. But I'll hit it and I'll be like, I was in the window for dodging it, and like he'll dodge but not enough, which is very Elden Ring, Dark Souls kind of thing.
Are you hitting dodge like once, or are you hitting dodge like multiple times?
Couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I think it's a little of both, column A, column B, depending on the boss.
I've learned that just dodging is not enough. You have to dodge in a direction, and you typically have to dodge multiple times, because there are some attacks that I've noticed. It's interesting because some of the attacks are AoE ones, some of them are a directional, and then some of them you actually have to go vertical with. I was like, damn it, I didn't realize. So
talking about like ground pounds, I've seen a ground pounder too.
Yeah. There's like a shockwave that comes out that you got to jump over. Spoiler, sorry, I didn't mean to ruin that.
If, spoiler.
You'll find out. You'll find that out if you're intuitive.
If that's your spoiler, people need to knock it off. Like you're looking for a reason to be upset. I'm not.
But I think part of it is I'm like 10 hours in the game. I have not. These are the first time I've come across some of these bigger bosses, and some of the bosses just I'm not used to their like I go up against a stormtrooper, or I go up against a droid or something like that. Like I know what to do. I know what their moves are. I'm fine. I can handle, second sisters and stuff like that. But some of these, like I just haven't seen the pattern yet, and I haven't seen the hitbox. So I'm like, okay, well, where, I got to feel it out. I got to play around in the space a little bit and figure out like, okay, well, how high is the, when should I be going in for attacks, and what is a good block versus like just dodging, and I think once I kind of get used to that after a few deaths, I'm like, okay, I feel like I know where I'm going. And I would say that they're generous towards the end of the fight. Like there's been a couple times where I'm like, I got another 2 minutes in me before this thing finally goes out, and then it kills it, and I'm like, or that works too. I'll take that death. That's fine. I'll kill that guy then. So I think you're right. I think that this is about as open world of a Star Wars game as we've gotten so far. I could see the argument for a wide linear as well. I was actually sitting there thinking, and maybe you've run into this. Have you been finding yourself running around the world looking for secrets, thinking, God, I wish this was a little more linear, because then I'd know if I'm supposed to go over here or over there?
100% yes. I put out a comedic tweet. It was like, got to a waterfall. There's nothing behind it. It's no longer on my game.
I was looking for that waterfall.
There are some waterfalls where there's nothing. One or two where I'm like, yes. But it is hard to tell where to go and what to do. And you always give me a hard time about me wanting to be handheld in games.
That's Ains.
No, you jump in. Don't even. But it's like, where does this want me to go? Like, what do I do to progress my game? Like, I can't go here because this is blocked off. I clearly don't have an upgrade, or I haven't created the shortcut for this part. I don't know where to go to progress the story. I know where to go to do rumors or whatnot, but I can just explore the world. But there are a couple of places where it's so open. I feel like I should be on a speeder or riding an animal. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just running for a while here.
I'm just running for a little bit. Shout out to the sorry. I wanted to bring up real quick. One of the pain points of the original game was the map. And the map now is so much better. It's still fairly similar to like Star Wars map. It feels like Empire's
spirit. It's captured the spirit of the old map, but it's usable. Yeah.
You've got little icons that you can set. So if there's something in a place, like there's one mob that always runs away from me. I have no clue how the heck I'm supposed to actually get there and actually capture it. I don't even know if I'm supposed to capture it. It just runs away. So there's like little points on the map where I find like those guys where I'm like, okay, I'm going to put a little icon on the map because I know that's where that guy is. And then there's like a hero's path from Zelda that Breath of the Wild had, that it would show you like where you've been, where you've died, and it will trace the path. This actually has that as well too. So it's like, if I'm in an open environment, there's at least like a good 30 minutes worth of path that it will like have a little tracer kind of follow the path to give me an indication of where I've moved from and where I've gone to. And that is so helpful when you're navigating like underground mines that have loop backs and shortcuts, especially in a game where it's like you're going to have shortcuts. You just you're not quite sure, like, okay, where was I put it down for a little bit. I have no clue like where I was or where I'm going. And having that little path on the map has really, really helped. That was a great bit of feedback that they took and applied well into the map. So I'm really a lot happier with the map.
The beacon system is just like Breath of the Wild as well. Did you notice that?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, love it or hate it, there are a lot of parallels to Breath of the Wild, which is funny given the timing of Tears of the Kingdom and such. But this is Star Wars Breath of the Wild in a lot of ways.
At least Breath of the Wild is coming, or Tears of the Kingdom is coming out, and it's not like a week before a Horizon game, because that would have been horrible.
You know what's interesting about Jedi Survivor in general, though, is that when Fallen Order came out, we were all like, this is truly a Star Wars Dark Souls style game. It's more approachable because it's easier, but it's, you have the meditation points, you have the bonfires, you have the combat's the same. Whereas we spent a lot of Fallen Order's time comparing it to Dark Souls. I feel like I'm comparing this a lot to Breath of the Wild. And it's interesting because those are two top tier games. But now that we've kind of acknowledged that the Respawn Star Wars formula is similar to one game in Dark Souls, now I'm equating this new one to a lot of the traversal and map elements and such to Breath of the Wild. And it's funny that we're just doing that. I don't know that there's a thesis in this, but it's absolutely noticeable to me that Fallen Order, this is like Dark Souls. And now I'm all like, this is like Breath of the Wild. But I'm okay with it because I love it. It's, performance aside, it's a great video game.
Yeah. Oh my God. I will say that polish is not Respawn's forte. What they do well is I had to get one in there. What they do well is they have exceptional environments. They have amazing combat. There's been a couple weird wonky things that I've had that is like, okay, there's a weird thing where it's like something obviously is happening and I'm supposed to be doing a finisher, but there's obviously not enough room where I'm doing it. So it's like pushing everyone to the left, like 5 meters so that it has enough space for the finisher. Like polish is not necessarily their forte, but they've done a great job with the characters. They've done an exceptional job with the environment. I love the combat and it is weird. It's weird opening up one of those loot boxes in the world and finding a full beard. Not gonna lie. Yeah. But it's clear that they understood what was like what we thought was clearly going to be like a microtransaction for the ponchos and stuff, like the different cosmetics for the weapons. They've leaned heavier into that this time. They've allowed you to customize Cal Kestis. So I've got my Cal looks amazing. He looks like dangerously amazing.
Yeah. There's a Dash Rendar suit in there. Did you notice that?
I did. Yes. Yeah. I didn't want to spoil it, but there's 100% a Dash Rendar suit in there and I'm rocking it.
Yeah. That's not a spoiler to me. That's just a cool, fun Easter egg.
Okay. So yeah. And I pre-ordered, so I got the Obi-Wan stuff, which looks really good as well too.
Minus the backpack stuff. I don't like that.
Yeah, I wish the backpack stuff. It was like, I didn't need that, but you know what? That's where BD1 like kind of like holds on to in my mind. So I'm allowing it because it's like that's how he gets his foothold.
$1 for donuts later in the game. I bet we see a Jedi robe set of outfits.
Oh, 100%.
And so that's probably what makes this the Obi-Wan Survivor outfit versus just robes that you can color. I bet you that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. The coloring system is very, very detailed, especially with your lightsaber. You can go in, there's a primary, a secondary, an accent, a grip, and then a fatigue. Polish level. Like you can make it look like super ancient.
Or clean, like really clean.
I love super clean too. I was playing around with it, and each world has a set of colors and color schemes, and it's not just like you see the little bar of like colors. It looks like a bunch of like I don't know sweeties or I don't know like I don't know candies or something. And the trick is you go in and each different color is its own finish, and you can go in and play around with the different finishes from the different sets. You can mix and match like. it's the kind of customization that I hoped Halo Infinite would have, given Halo MCC. And
Right.
they've applied it. It's just for your lightsaber, which is the most important part to customize. But I've loved having the ability to play around with just the small tweaks, and they smartly took into consideration the fact that it's like, we don't want microtransactions in this. We just want customization. Put all of the little boxes out in the world as the customizations. Have the really big boxes be the important ones for the things that improve, like the combat and the survivability and stuff like that.
It made me think of, as I was looking at some of the ways that you can literally have a hot pink lightsaber, if you play it right. And so it reminded me of the argument when Battlefront 2 first came out, because Battlefront 2 is a great game now. Like, there's a lot of good Star Wars to be had there.
Kind of like Battlefield 2042.
Yep, I downloaded it. Yep.
Peer pressure.
Yep. I did. Yes, long story. So it reminded me of all the discussions of people being like, well, I don't want a hot pink Darth Vader running around. We can only do so much. It's like, it's a video game. You can be a video game. Is there harm in letting somebody have a pink lightsaber or an out of canon outfit or whatnot? No, it's a video game.
Yeah,
the story of Cal is intact. I'm really anxious to see where they go with it, because I'm a diehard Star Wars fan. I really liked Mando season 2, apart from one episode.
I mean,
season 3, I should say.
They kind of like teased it at the very beginning, though. I feel
don't
like
say. I do, but I don't know and
right.
whatnot. But given the direction of this time period that we're seeing the universe take, both in shows and now in games, and knowing that Ubisoft has a open world Star Wars game in the works over at Massive, and knowing there's a few other games kind of happening, knowing that there's more coming on the movie space with characters that we know, not just with the High Republic era, but like with this era, with the sequel era. Like, I'm excited to see what they're going, because they're doing a good job tying these three eras together.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of that, because it seems to be cohesive, and like for example, Mando is allowing the sequel trilogy to make more sense. The story of Cal Kestis, I think, is allowing some of this era of Obi-Wan's show to make more sense, and what's going on with the Jedi in this time period.
That's a good tease, by the way. That was a good illusion. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm appreciative of kind of that. One makes the other better, and I like that aspect for diehard fans to get to enjoy. They also have a great job for anyone that's not played Fallen Order. They have a great intro explaining what happens.
They really do. Yeah, and again, the prologue to this game was great. I actually really appreciated it. I thought they did a great job. I think right now, I'm hoping that. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
In game? No, I think that's a good place to, based on my experience, because like I said, I've not gotten to progress the way I'd like to, despite getting to play it early. Because I've lost performance. The day one patch did nothing of improvement really on my end.
I have no idea.
So if anyone's on the fence and like, you can wait, not wait for sale, but there's a lot happening. There's a lot going on in the gaming space, and performance needs to get fixed. But if you're a Star Wars fan, I'd say power through. I was surprised, and I do want to touch on Todd Oxford's question here, as well as kind of the separate from Star Wars, but in general, why some games get knocked for performance issues and some don't. I was surprised to see, there was a recent game, maybe it was Ghostwire, but we've seen Hogwarts take hits. In Dead Island did not take hits with it, but like, basically, if the game doesn't run well, do you knock the review score? And I have a feeling that Redfall will get knocked for performance issues. I saw Ghostwire
did. On Steam, at least the reviews for Steam, like, people are already review bombing it for that.
Are we talking about Star Wars or Redfall?
For Star Wars.
Yes, I saw that. So, but I mean, critically is what I'm saying. Critically, it feels like some games are ignored for performance issues and some not. And I don't know what the reasoning is. And I think in large part, it comes about, where do you want to get your reviews from as a consumer? Enthusiast media, they're typically going to weigh in fun factor. Content creators, depends on who you go to. Review outlets, in theory, should be far more objective with the reviews. I saw people completely dismissing IGN for a number of reasons, and others going to it hardcore. And I get all of that. And I want my enthusiast media to talk to me about Fun Factor a lot more than I say want to go to Digital Foundry, right? I go to Digital Foundry to discuss technical stuff or hear technical things, which is far less important to me. I don't think I should be crashing to lose progress, but like, I don't really care if I see the curvature. Like, I don't care how PS5 performs to Xbox if it's 2 frames off. I just want to enjoy the game.
Yeah, I think that like for me, and it's really tough as an outlet, I can imagine, because all the games that they review are all done prior to the day one patch.
Mm-hmm.
So everything they type, everything they say about the performance issue is all at the caveat that they're hoping that the day one patch that they've been told will fix a lot of these issues will actually fix those issues. Otherwise, it's like, well, we kind of have to, we can't really put a review out there, which is a consumer guide. It's not like game is a failure or a loss or a win. You know, it is literally a consumer guide. They have to assume that the devs saying that the day one patch is taking care of a lot of the issues that they've run into actually works. And if that doesn't happen, then it's like, well, then, you know, you're looking at IGN, who gave it a 9 with the promise from the studio that all the bugs would be fixed at day one. Now the bugs aren't fixed for the studio. The studio put out a mea culpa message, effectively saying like, hey, we understand that PC is running into a lot of issues. We're working hard on dealing with it. Honestly, like I wish there was a world where that wasn't the case, where we didn't have to wait for the mea culpa from studios and then thank them for their transparency. I wish we just lived in a world where the game came out and it was polished and it was ready to go and it hit hard. So often I feel like we're looking at the other side of the fence with PlayStation and looking at the games that they're releasing, and we're seeing that happen. We're seeing their games launch flawlessly without any issues. I can't think of one off the top of my head where that isn't the case.
In console space, yes.
In console space, yes.
Yep.
Last of Us PC port aside, because I think that is being managed.
It's an outlier for PlayStation.
Very enough to where people are calling it out as like, hey, this is insane. This is I can't believe this had happened, and that's because, you know, their track record is so good with this. So I want to know, like, and we're talking Microsoft versus Sony in this situation, understanding that Jedi Fallen Order is a third party publisher. So it's hard to really kind of point at that because the performance is across all of platforms right now. But it comes back around to the idea that you're talking about. Like, we are running into a world where day one patches are no longer sufficing to quell the issues. So should outlets hold reviews? Should they put them as reviews in progress? How is that going to affect the Metacritic? That's a consumer facing system that allows players to make, you know, positive, you know, like make informed decisions. And looking at the Metacritic, it's like, yeah, I can see why people are review bombing this. It's not running well. And
so you brought up, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, please jump in. You
brought up a lot in that.
Yeah,
you brought up the PlayStation versus Xbox, and then you brought up the idea of, you know, reviews and performance in general and how it affects, you know, should people be upset? So there's, I had a really good conversation with a very high profile content creator that does reviews that you've absolutely watched.
Oh, thank you. We did talk about this a little bit. Yeah.
Did we? I don't know.
No, I'm joking that I'm the content creator, and I know I'm not, so I have no clue who you talk to.
So this person was extremely upset when Dead Island 2 came out because they did not get a code with time to spare. They got a code like 2 days before this 20-hour experience came out, which is not enough time to play the game objectively, create the content, put it out. And thus they were losing money and the game's losing coverage because it de-incentivizes their ability to cover it. Then Last Case of Benedict Fox, codes for that came in 12 hours before the game went live and hit Game Pass. And I know I saw Jez Corden publicly speaking about this, and he was like, yeah, there's no incentive for me to cover this game now. I would lose money putting time and energy away from Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, and redacted game that's big coming out first party, right? I would lose money covering Benedict Fox, but
which is a shame
in general. Absolutely, because apparently it's pretty good. But we got a code 12 hours before. I don't have time to put. I'm not going to suspend coverage of Jedi Fallen Order, and then we did not get codes for Redfall, but not play Redfall for coverage on my Xbox podcast and play Benedict Fox. Even though, like, if we get the interview for them, yes, I would do that. But like, as far as timing and coverage, like, that game was put out to die between those two.
Yeah.
So to bring it back to performance and stuff, some people are not able to comment on certain things because games are being held for performance reasons or not being sent out on time, and it damages the ability for outlets to cover it. Why would IGN spend time covering Benedict Fox or game X or Y when it is all, for all intents and purposes, fine? Or if a game's not running well, can they actually get time to put into it? And then do they miss their window of coverage? And there's a lot that goes into those. And then there's the idea of first party coverage, right?
Yeah.
Xbox has had a problem, and I've talked many times about finding the fun, swimming in sevens, being happy, but a tentpole title cannot release at a 7. It also should not release with performance problems, which is a well-documented case in Redfall. Hi-Fi Rush is carrying the torch for the best Xbox release this year, and very few people talk about it. And Age of Empires launched very well. Minecraft Legends launched in the 7s category, which we both really enjoyed our time. But like, to me, those are fair reviews. Between 7 and 8 is a fair realm for Minecraft Legends, despite my having fun with it. And then
which is
Ghostwire Tokyo, which I having a blast. I love that game. Really enjoying it. But like, how is it launching after a year with worse performance on Xbox, who is, optically is the caretaker for Bethesda titles now? How is it launching worse? So like, there's a lot of like frustration points in a review process, in coverage outlets, and then in performance elements, and how should they factor into the review process at all to loop it all back together? You were asking like, why would some places, rate it, some not, or some, look at performance, some not. There's a lot of steps in this that are frustrating. So I don't know that I have a core, like, I nailed your question, but all these things come into my mind when I'm looking at games.
Yeah. Especially when you look at what's going on across the fence, right? Like, you look at the last major release that Sony had was probably
Horizon. Would you count Horizon Forbidden Shore or Burning Shores?
That's a tough one.
But even then, that did well, or like it's well reviewed.
It was revealed, or it was okay. So let me get straight to the point instead of beating around the bush here. God of War, they had a long time to review that. They had an amazingly large window to review that game, and I don't see that on Microsoft's side. And I want to put out into the world that I would have hoped that with this generation being as strong of a generation, with the promises made as far as like, the first party content that's going to be like flooding in every single year, the drives that they want to have with being able to utilize both the Series S and X, and having there being parity between speeds, but resolution is the only factor. I really would have liked to have seen Microsoft stand on steadier ground than what we've currently seen this generation, because it feels like, it really does kind of feel like the ground is cracking underneath them, and it's when you lose that foundation, you can't build on it. But we're constantly building on it. We're building on it with the ABK deal, and I'm hoping that with the news of the ABK deal, we'll kind of know like what's going on with the future of Xbox. But again, we're talking about the foundation of Xbox and seeing where they need to improve. And I think a lot of it is in stability. Like, stability feels like the word of the day. And I think that's what, if Phil Spencer ever listened to our podcast and never took anything away from it, I would hope that the one thing that he takes away is that gamers care more about, like, we're fine with 7s. We're 100% fine with 7s. The thing that factors into that 7 is if the game is solid. If it feels solid, if it feels like it came out knowing exactly what it was and you could play through it and not have any issues, then it's okay if it's not the most most amazing game out there. Like if it's just a good game, totally fine spending the money on Game Pass for that as long as it runs well. Because that's my biggest stipulation with Redfall too, is I want a locked 30. I don't want a fluctuating 30 if I can't get 60.
So I, in premise, agree. I'm the find the fun guy. I swim in sevens. I love it. I mean, my joke is I'm swimming sevens and I get wet. Like, here we are. And I think it's a funny joke to make, but like the problem for me is when we have misleading marketing, and this isn't specific to Xbox, but Xbox is absolutely at fault for this as well. On the box of for Redfall, it says 60 FPS, right? And then they touted
we
it.
saw leaks for it to kind of clarify. We don't have the boxes.
Yes, and I would argue the Bite Back edition is out there. Like the boxes, the hardware, the hard copies are out there now. And when a game is advertised and showcased in one way and then it's delivered in a different one, I think that's a problem. And I think that's part of it. I don't mind, to your point, if a game is, hey, this is what it is, we know what it is, and we're marketing it as such. Cool, fine. I don't mind that part. I do have a problem when your major tentpole title doesn't live up to the standards, and then you're as a company, it feels as though you're trying to match another company. When you look at the IP of Nintendo, you have some sevens in there, but most of the time there's a very high quality bar, a very high performance bar of first party titles. And that doesn't mean they always like showcase well. I think it was Save Game Media, Kevin Ainsworth, shout out to him, and his co-host, who we're talking about, like Bayonetta 3. It's like a 480p game, right? Weird to get an right. But in general, you know what you're getting with Nintendo, and it's a high quality bar. PlayStation, the same thing. We saw a year delay on Halo Infinite. It didn't hit the standards that the majority of gamers wanted Halo Infinite to be. I love Halo Infinite, but even in hindsight, we must acknowledge it didn't land where it needed to be. Forza seems to be the only tentpole title on Xbox's first party that consistently is reliable to get kind of in the upper 8s, 9s category. And even then, I'm disappointed with their most recent expansion. Forza Motorsport, quick note, asterisk, might get a delay or might be pushed out of 2023. Weird. And when you've got Ghostwire coming in, when you've got Redfall coming in, seemingly not going to do very well critically, I will swim in sevens all day. I like a good 7, like that's fine, but I don't get to stack that up and say, hey, Redfall and God of War, hey, Redfall and Ghost of Tsushima. So where is the top tier reason to buy your Xbox, reason to have Game Pass? And it seems like they're going for quantity over quality.
It does.
I'm okay with that, but am I okay? Let me rephrase that. I am okay with that argument. I am not okay with seemingly low standards when you're telling us to spend X amount of dollars, when you're pushing people to buy a box, when you're pushing people to sell your service. It seems like Xbox is taking a lot of L's and a lot of unforced errors.
It's weird looking at the quote unquote titles that should be your tentpole titles for the franchise, for the console, and think, you know what? The smaller studio or the smaller games coming from those studios are the ones that are actually nailing it. It's so weird. It's such an interesting dichotomy because we're so expectant of the mascots to really carry the banner for the rest of the company. You know, we're expecting Jin Sakai and Aloy and Nathan Drake and Kratos to be the ones that really like push the console for everything that it can do. We expect Mario games and Zelda games and Metroid games to be some of the best experiences with those IPs that you've ever had on the consoles, with tying into the features of the actual console, given the what they design around. And with Xbox, it feels like a lot of the time they're running in tandem with third-party publishers as far as the expectation of what that content is going to do. Halo Infinite had an impossible task of doing something that was fresh, that hit well, and for all intents and purposes, I still really love that that campaign. it pains me that they're, and it pains me that we're not getting any more of it anytime soon. And you know, I feel like the seasons and the microtransactions, the hiccups that they ran into, aside from some of the latency issues that they had initially with the multiplayer, really dragged down the narrative for Halo. It's still as popular as ever, I would say. But it is interesting to think that it doesn't feel like we have those banner carriers for Xbox at the moment. We're hoping that agree. Redfall is that. We're hoping that Starfield is that. Well, it's kind of weird to put the weight of that on Bethesda, given how soon that acquisition has happened.
I think the problem with Microsoft is the lack of focus, and there's an inability for a content creator, an enthusiast, a retailer to point to one reason to have an Xbox. The reason seems to be Game Pass and the breadth of choice. And there's a lot of great choices in there. And like I said, like it's a quantity over quality thing. There's a lot of great games in Game Pass, but I don't see that Square Enix relationship that PlayStation has. I don't see Xbox having that with anybody. Maybe it's Activision when this deal falls through. Maybe it's them. Maybe it's the marketing deals with them. I don't know.
I think it was Bethesda. I think the difference being is that they put a ring on Bethesda, whereas Square refuses to.
If that was true, Deathloop and Ghostwire wouldn't have been timed exclusives, wouldn't have performed worse on Xbox. And again, when I say perform worse, like there's not anyone that's thinking Ghostwire is bad on Xbox is fooling themselves. It plays very well. We're talking like people that count frames. But
that's why I don't factor that in, honestly. If I'm being perfectly honest, the worst performance isn't enough for me. Looking at like the side by side comparisons, to be like, oh, that would bug me.
I don't see it either. I've had a great Sublime experience with Ghostwire, and I'm anxious to go back once I'm done with Jedi.
If ghosts were like T-posing and floating around on
we'd be
Xbox,
upset.
Yeah, there'd be a big difference. But I do think that I think because of the severity of Bethesda going first party for Xbox, I think because of the severity of the nature of that acquisition, they wanted kind of an olive branch by keeping the deals for Deathloop and for Ghostwire. I think that's what that was about. And I think after they had that deal, they're like, okay, cool. Now that we've honored those agreements, let's bring those over to Xbox. Let's get that over here, and we'll make that an Xbox first party exclusive kind of thing in the future.
I think the narrative of next year,
yeah,
is I think this is it. I think when you look at our 2023 Hi-Fi Rush, top tier game, niche title, Age of Empires 2, top tier game, niche title, Ghostwire, Minecraft Legends, first party but multi-platform, Redfall, haven't gone hands on, 4 to 5 people I trust playing it. 7's not performing well on Xbox. Okay. But I'm still excited for it. To be clear, that's a game I want to play. I'm excited for it. I'm worried about the tentpole status of Redfall and Starfield. And I'm anxious to see how this showcase goes come summertime, because I know they've invited people out to LA, but it doesn't feel the same as like a fan fest yet. And we're definitely down to the wire of who's going to spend the money to take it out there. They've invited some people, not others. I
don't think we're getting a fan fest. Do you know if we are?
I don't think we're getting a fan. There's an event, but it's like a watch party. And even then it's not public, like not publicly out there yet. And there's your leak from XCP.
Can I toss a question to you kind of in this vein is do you think that what we're feeling right now is the uncertainty of Xbox is derived from the fact that we don't know what's coming in 2024?
I think the
showcase will alleviate that.
I don't think the showcase is set to alleviate anything. To me, it feels like next to the news of the CMA blocking the ABK deal. CMA is the UK specific, by the way, not the EU. I saw myself and others getting that confused. Plus the FTC's kind of, again, it feels like this deal is in doubt, whatever. But it feels like there's a lot of doom and gloom surrounding it, because tentpole state is Redfall. You've got Forza, you've got Starfield, and you've got Forza Motorsport 8 for this year in theory, and those are the last kind of known elements of soon releases for Xbox. And then next year, like what's your next year? What do you got on the docket? You know a lot. You know that State of Decay 3, Avowed, you know Everwild, you know there's a lot. Like you could go Indiana Jones. You could just go through and list things you know are happening for Xbox. Contraband, Perfect Dark. Those are all in the process happening. Fable, but when and how and what's it look like? And we don't know what 2024 looks like. I don't know that you're set to get released, and I don't have confidence in Microsoft to deliver that 10-pole top tier title. I just don't. And I'm the guy that loves their games. I do love their games. I love Halo Infinite. I really like Forza Horizon 5 a lot. Loving Ghostwire, but the top tier, there's no God of War competition.
I don't think there's God of War competition. I don't know of a title yet that I feel confident to say like is on the same level as Sony's first party IP at the moment. And that is definitely a bummer. I don't think Starfield will at this point. I don't think that Starfield's going to hit where we want it to hit. And I think that's where a lot of reviewers are going to have to say like, okay, what was my expectation versus what is the actual product?
Right.
At this point,
real quick, if any Xbox person is like, well, we got Elder Scrolls 6, hush. No, that can't be your thing.
I
That's
can't hear anyone saying that.
I've seen people be like, well, Elder Scrolls 6 could be their 10. Like, no, be quiet. Like that's not even knock it off.
No.
I saw people, because there was in the documents for the CMA, there's like a 10-year title in there.
Oh.
No, that can't be your thing.
That was probably Halo.
It just can't be your thing. No, like there's a sequel in the works 10 years away. There's your Elder Scrolls 6.
Can I talk positively real quick about the CMA thing? Sure,
go for it. I would like some good news on it because we're the fun guys. Yes.
Okay, so for those that didn't hear, the CMA blocked the ABK deal, stating that the cloud competition was the most major issue with the deal going through. Not having access to Call of Duty on cloud streaming platforms was a big concern. Honestly, that's fantastic news for me because as of a recording, not only has Brad Sims come out, who's the president of Xbox, come out and made deals with multiple companies out there, but this says to me that Sony's issue or in Sony's concerns about Call of Duty on console is no longer one of those like teetering points for the CMA. Now the CMA has moved past the console exclusivity issue, and they're looking at like the broader scope of what's going to happen in the future, and they're trying to secure assurances from Xbox, saying like, okay, please, we don't want this going through right now because we're not quite sure about what's going to happen. And some of the arguments that I've seen in the documentation around like, oh well, Google Stadia died because of Call of Duty, and it's like, that's a stupid argument. That's easily disproved. And with all the deals that they've been making, it's like, okay, well, these are manageable things that we can actually do. Like we can make 10-year deals for cloud streaming companies. If they want Call of Duty, that's fine. But the fact that Sony is no longer the main argument for why this deal isn't going through, that excites me because it clearly shows like they now understand Sony is the market leader. Xbox is not. That's no longer like why we should be fighting over whether or not this should go through.
And they also came out with this past week with another 10-year deal with Enware, which is a European cloud-based company, literally in the UK's backyard. They've done this with NVIDIA, GeForce, Boosteroid. They did deals with Nintendo for Call of Duty, Ubitus. They did.
You beat us.
The EE, which is the UK cell phone provider. Like they are consistently, I feel like, addressing any concerns
quickly.
Yes, very much so. Addressing these concerns, but it feels like consistently people are looking for reasons for it not to work, and yet to provide a real reason why it shouldn't. But I have no stake in this, by the way. Like I don't care. Like I'm over it. I was never the guy that said Diablo should be exclusive or Call of Duty should be exclusive. I think that's unhealthy for those types of games to be exclusive.
I know, 100%.
I just want Toys for Bob to make more Spyro or to free up some of those studios and whatnot. And I want Bobby Kotick to get out.
Ever since I joined the show, my main thing with the ABK deal is I want Microsoft's level of inclusion and diversity and employee support to ring throughout the ABK organization. And I want Bobby Kotick to get out of there because I hate him. I don't know him, but I hate what he does. He makes them money, and I'm glad that they're happy for that. But he's a
Red Beast, I'm so sorry your kids are listening. I'm sorry, buddy.
Man,
he's using the bleep button though.
Harsh beeps. Don't read lips. So no, I feel like that's what I want most out of this. I actually don't care if their games are exclusive. Whatever comes to Game Pass is a fantastic value build for me at this point. But I still buy all my Blizzard titles through my launcher, so it's not a huge thing for me. My light just fell.
Oh, nope. Your light. Okay.
But honestly, like it's nice to see that the deal is moving forward for reasons that are outside of what felt like Sony's influence for so long.
I don't know that it's moving forward, but I understand your point. This didn't feel like a Sony reason to stop it, but it does feel a little hollow because the reason was essentially cloud. If anybody missed that, their reason was that cloud is too dangerous an area for one company to have too much power. And Stadia failed and such, but it's just, I don't know that it rings true, but
it doesn't at all. But you know what? Yeah. That's good, because if it was like that, and that's the thing that I think we've talked a little bit in private conversations, is that I've yet to see an actual reason for why this deal shouldn't happen. And everything that they've thrown at this has all been like, oh, well, what if? And then they go and give them an answer, and they're like, okay, well, what if this? And Microsoft comes back with an answer, and then they're like, okay, cool, you proved those 5 things, but what about this? And they're like, hold my beer. And then they go and fix it. And then they're like, oh, they're going to run out of reasons. It's going to go through. And I think it's just a matter of time at this point.
I think I'm just tired of hearing about it.
That's
because
fair.
I don't have an investment in it other than hosting an Xbox podcast, and I like the value proposition for Game Pass, but
it'll be good.
But and then there's your quantity not quality element of it, to loop it back to our previous conversation. But so it goes. I'm just tired of hearing about it. Like, I was never the guy that was laying on a hill for ABK one way or another. And I really just want the quality control at Microsoft to improve, top to bottom. I want that. That's the thing I want changed. I wanted Redfall to be a 9. I want Starfield to launch well. I wanted Minecraft Legends to do a little bit more than what it's seemingly doing, because it's such a powerful IP. But I enjoyed Minecraft Legends. I love Ghostwire. There's a lot to enjoy, and there's a lot to have fun with. And remember, guys, if anybody's doom and glooming everything, how much can you play on your Xbox this year? You can play all the Personas. You got Monster Hunter dropping into Game Pass. Hi-Fi Rush, Dead Space Remake was there. Deliver Us Mars. Hogwarts Legacy came out this year. I liked the Wanted Dead game. Atomic Heart came into Game Pass. Wolong hit Game Pass. RE4 Remake hit and was fantastic. Ghostwire Tokyo came out on Xbox. Dead Island 2. Last Case of Benedict Fox. Jedi Survivor just came out. How much can you play on your Xbox? A heck ton. I'm
skipping games that I want to play because there's so much going on. And honestly, like, and it's one of the things that I love to tell folks. Don't worry about buying some of these games because of FOMO, because I guarantee you, I promise you, they're going to get better with time. They're like a wine, you know, you can drink the wine now, you can get drunk on it if you really want to, but the longer you wait, the better it's going to get. Yep. And they're going to have patches for this. I'm sure they already see the blowback after the performance issues and stuff. You know, Redfall, same situation, whatever state they come out in, whenever you decide to pick it up is going to be null, because the later it is, the better it's going to get. So don't worry about missing out on the zeitgeist.
And ultimately, guys, no one's job is to justify a major company. Play where you want to play, enjoy what you want to play, and don't get caught up in the negativity, doom and gloom element. Be critical. Like, I am critical of quality control elements right now for not just Xbox, but like, I don't think Survivor should be launching where it was at. Hogwarts shouldn't have had the broken loading problems. There are things to be upset about, but equal praise offered to Dead Space Remake and RE4 and so many others. It's okay. Like,
I would much rather I would much rather have criticisms with the performance of Jedi Survivor than the story, combat, navigation, character diversity, environments. Like, there are so many other aspects of that game that I could take umbrage with. Yeah, well, that's the thing. But I mean, it's still playable for me. Like, I'm still playing it, and I'm still going to play it. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the game is so good that I'm willing to put up with the performance issues.
Agree with that.
That to me is a good sign of a game.
That's the part I agree with. But I have had a slightly there in the review process, which 2 days earlier, but like, losing progress is frustrating.
Yeah, that is.
That needs to get
fixed. I think you had a little bad luck with that one, because I haven't had a crash on me yet.
Good to hear, and I hope listeners are hearing that too, because I can only talk about my experience. But like, if you're not losing progress, you're not having problems. Good.
And I'm swapping between systems too. I'm going from one Xbox to the other Xbox. Cloud saves are working amazingly. I save at I meditate before I log off on one, and I go to the other one so I don't lose anything. It's been fine. I think screen tearing and frame drop is the only issues I've really run into, and a couple weird wonky things with animations and in combat and stuff. But again, it's like Respawn polish is not their forte. Good storytelling and amazing environments and fun combat is their forte.
Agreed. Well said. All right, guys. So some just a quick small story. I thought this was cool. Wo Long, which did come day and date into Game Pass. That game sold over 1 million units worldwide and had 3.8 million people play on Game Pass. I thought that was dope.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
Crazy.
Wasn't for me, not my type of game, a little too hard for me, but cool to see 3.8 million Game Pass players, as well as 1 million selling in a new IP. Dope.
Yeah.
Cool. We have a couple questions here from our amazing listeners and patrons that I want to touch on, but I also want to say, if you missed the Sea of Stars interview this past week, really fun interview. Absolutely, Thierry Boulanger is just amazing. That was his second time on XEP. Go check that out. That did pretty darn well, which was cool. And then if you missed the Stray Lights came out this past week. Definitely check out that game, but also the interview with them was really, really fun as well. Humble brag. I tweeted at Sarah Bond for that one because she said she was excited for that game. She did not answer, but she clicked like, and it made me feel good. So there you go.
I got validated.
Yeah. Notice me, Senpai, is my consistent message to Xbox.
Oh, they're weebs.
Yep. I will not be the guy that just tells everything Xbox is good about, but I do like when they notice me. So
yeah.
All right, so let's go. I want to talk about Todd Oxtra's question. Todd Oxtra, a patron, wrote in over on Twitter. He said, what's the deal with Xbox expansion cards? With games optimized for X coming in at over 100 gigabytes, Jedi Survivor is around 150 gigs. They really need cheaper solutions if they're going to have things be on the SSD. I agree with that. I know we had a third-party one finally starting to hit the market.
Western Digital.
Yep. I'll let you talk about that one in a minute. But I agree with this because, I was an Avengers player for a long time, and I still enjoy that game. That's 160 gigs or something. COD is around that same area, like 130 or so. Jedi Survivor is at 150. That's a lot of space to be made up and no solution for your player base. If you're on a Series S, which is their market performer, amidst even these hardware issues of getting units out there for Xbox right now, because they are struggling to get units out there. Quick aside, if that's why you're seeing such a deficit in their hardware, and why you're seeing them still make money is cloud, ironically. But they do need to solve that for their player base, because those expansion cards are dope. But you guys built this proprietary technology that would be fast floating and whatnot, and it performs quite well. But if nobody can afford it, what's the point? Nobody can buy your product. They got to fix it. Got to fix that.
Okay, so first off, I got to...
Don't be the voice of reason, Logan. I hear it in your voice.
All right, sit down. What are your solutions for storage? What do you
I
got?
have an on my Series X. I have an external hard drive that is not uh,
Just a normal.
velocity. Yeah, it's not velocity infrastructure. So like I have to move games off of my SSD onto that external hard drive, and then if I want to take advantage of, and I can play them off of that, by the way, but it would be it's played in Xbox One mode, right? But if it's
Yeah,
a Series X exclusive,
can't do anything.
it can't do anything. So I can move stuff off to save on downloads once I've done it, and that's
Mhm.
like COD is on my external right now. I don't play it off of that. If I want to play COD, I have to move it back over.
Yeah.
That's my solution at the moment. I don't think cloud is the answer en masse right now for high fidelity types games.
Okay. The reason I ask is because my experience is a little bit different. I own 2 Xbox Series X's. I have one in the office and one in the living room. I have
rich boy.
I have a 1 terabyte SD card that is the Velocity one. That is on the living room one, and I have a 512 one in my office Xbox.
That's expensive.
It is expensive. I also have a 4 terabyte Seagate external drive that houses most of my Xbox One and 360 and Xbox games on there. Pretty much everything else that is series games are on the 2 Velocity cards as well as the internal. So I'm usually not too worried about space as far as like my games go. So I'm a little bit of an outlier on this, but I have spent an exorbitant amount of money on external cards. What I will say is Sony was right in this case, because I was at first, I was grabbing my card and I was swapping it between Xboxes, and then I got 2 cards. Having the cards being able to be swapped easily is amazing. It's so amazing. It's so much better having something as fast as the internal and being able to take the card out, move it over to the other Xbox and do that. The assumption here is that you have multiple systems to do that with. And given that you have a Series S, it is very common for folks to have one in one room and like an X in another. If you're like multiple people playing on Xboxes on a regular basis. Where Sony's solution is much cheaper, it is also assuming that you will never have another X or another PlayStation. You have one PlayStation, you have one external, or you have one expansion card, and that expansion card needs a screwdriver to be able to remove. So Sony was right going with the standard version of memory as far as like cost goes in the future, assuming that most of the people that are going to be playing their system is one person. Xbox knew that they were going to sell multiple consoles to one family, and they built their storage solution with that in mind. So seeing that the exclusivity to Seagate has finally lifted and that Western Digital is now working on an external card that is a 1 terabyte for 180 versus the 220 is nice, because it's still not as cheap as what you can get for a 1 terabyte M4 card. Like you can get an M1 card or a M4 card, I think is what they are. The NVMe cards, you can get those for like $80 on sale for a terabyte. If you want like 2 terabytes, you can spend like $150. Really, really cheap. But we're also talking form factor, ease of use, transferability with these cards. So you're going to be paying a premium regardless. But I am glad to see that they're finally doing that.
I think it's just a problem that needs a better solution.
Cheaper. I think it's a better solution. I think they need a cheaper solution.
Cheaper is okay. Better. That's better wording. So I'll give you that. Yes. Different question. This one comes in from Rune Kame. He wrote in over on Twitter. What's up, Rune? He says, there's a Call of Duty board game coming next year. Do you have a bunch of board games based on video games already? We have a bunch of them based on video games already, such as Dark Souls, Stardew Valley, Horizon Zero Dawn, Skyrim. My question for you two gentlemen, what board games based on video games would you like to see? I know there's a Gears one out there. I love board games, but nobody ever plays them with me. So I'm not a good question person for this, because I have all these board games down there that are still in cellophane. So
I have Steelforge Games just announced that they are going to be selling a Sea of Thieves one for $70, I think. And that is a Sea of Thieves one that I would like to pick up at some point. I have a board game up in here. That's my Gargoyles one. That it's fun, but it's me and my wife, so we don't play video game, or we don't play board games that often. We're not like huge into it. I'm sure she would love it if I actually sat down to do it, but I've usually got my head in a video game most of the time. So I don't really have anything that I'm looking forward to, because I really don't jump into board games. I'm much more about like video games than I am board games. But I am glad that Sea of Thieves has got one coming out. I would love to see one come out that is tied to Redfall in this case, because I think Redfall would be an interesting one to do. Given that, because I mean, I could see like an Elder Scroll, or I could see like Elder Scrolls. I could see a Starfield one. I could see that, but with Redfall, I think with it being a new IP, with it having interesting characters, it would lean itself well into most board games, because you usually have like specific characters with specific abilities, and those abilities will help try to like. It's clear that there's like a tank DPS healer kind of meta with most board games that I've seen. And I think Redfall would fall well in line with that, compared to like a Starfield, where it's like you're a character and a bunch of other factions, versus Halo, which is just Master Chief and a bunch of different Covenant or Banished or whatever, depending on when you make it. But Redfall, it's got cultists, it's got vampires, it's got hero characters, and those hero characters have abilities. I think it'd be a perfect opportunity for them to reach out to like Steelforged or some of the other manufacturers out there making board games.
Okay, cool. Good answer. Let's see here. Last question comes from Trickster. He wants to know if we watched the new Apex Legends character trailer. He says, I don't play Apex Legends myself, but do you still? He enjoys those trailers in which they make a TV show. I haven't seen the trailer. I've seen previous Apex trailers. They're always really good. High quality. I do not still play Apex, but I loved my time with it. I 1K'd that game back in the day. It was always really, really good. And I talked about Anthony at the top of the show. He's all about some Apex. But no, it's always impressive given what we've seen with like Arcane. There was an Arcane made game that went with, was it called Arcane? And it was
the show was called Arcane.
It was called
League
Arcane.
of Legends universe.
League of Legends. Thank you. That was impressive. I watched an episode or so of that, like in the background, because that wasn't.
You never finished it.
Well, it's not my interest level, right? Like
that's fair.
But like I went to see the quality, and I saw that. And then of course, Cyberpunk's Edge Runners was really cool, and
Edge Runners was really good. But that was a full on like anime studio that did that. They were very polished.
Yeah. So it's neat, but like I haven't watched that particular trailer.
So I didn't realize that there was a new trailer out. I'm watching the Arsenal trailer right now, and yeah, I gotta say, like Apex Legends, they really do know how to make a trailer. They do a fantastic job with it, and their characters are unique and interesting, and you don't ever get to see that too often with many games, especially games that are live games, like live service games. You look at Call of Duty, what's their trailer? The trailer's like, oh, we got Rukusaki, shredders in the game now. It's like, okay, well there's no story behind that. There's just like, hey, we got same thing with Fortnite. Fortnite's like, hey, we got Attack on Titan characters. Oh, and Anakin Skywalker's coming to Fortnite.
I'm excited.
And it's like, that's it. That's the trailer. In this one, it's like, okay, Silver Fox guy coming in here. He knows what's going on. I have no clue what his abilities are, because I haven't been able to listen to the actual trailer while I'm watching it. But I got to say, like, it is a fantastic trailer. So it's worth watching in the same way that Overwatch trailers are worth watching, because you're going to get some really good story while actually getting the reveal for what's going on.
Nice. There you go. Guys, I want to ask all of you to take a moment and go listen to Keelhauled podcast. That is a really great Sea of Thieves podcast that Logan hosts. Buddy. And then if you're willing, drop some reviews. We got a lot of reviews thanks to that Star Wars campaign we did for doing the giveaway. But it means the world, and it really does help the show a lot. And now that we're divided between YouTube and audio feeds, I can really see like where you guys' interest levels are, which is amazing. But go drop those reviews, those likes. It really means the world. And then if you would love to support Keelhauled, you can go to Keelhauled's Patreon. And you can also go to XEP's Patreon at patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass. Both of those help Logan and I out tremendously. And he has graciously let financial support for this show go to me. Please check out Keelhauled as well, because it really does help us do things like keep our tech upgraded, get games for coverage purposes that we don't get codes for, all of that stuff, and travel if there are conventions, which is something that we are looking forward to doing. Not this summer, not at E3, but in general, something that we want to do more of. So that's
I'm traveling.
You're traveling. That's what I was alluding to. It's like you're doing something.
I'm doing travels.
E3. So
yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. My patrons are very generous. I've recently moved away from advertising in the podcast, so now I'm purely supported by Patreon funds. And I didn't tell anyone this, but I definitely used some of the Patreon funds to do the charity support for Special Effect on this week, because dude, man, like it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm gonna prop up the podcast and use some of the patron money to donate for Special Effect, because it's so
That's the right
worth
thing
it
to do, man. Yeah,
I love doing that. I love having the knowledge that I'm getting enough in from the Patreon to be able to help support those kind of causes and still help kind of alleviate some of the travel costs of going to SOT fests in both NA and UK.
That's a feel good win. I've got all of our patron funds for XEP in one spot, and there's a portion of that will go towards more tech, better upgrades, but also that are going to Extra Life when Ains does his Extra Life.
We're gonna get you that second monitor one day, buddy.
I know. Well, time. We just did a lot of upgrades and time. So there you go. Well, guys, I don't know that I will have an interview for you coming up this week. There will be a Patreon episode of Creator Talk with Wilmy Hood, which is cool. But I think I need a small break. So if I get the Benedict Fox interview out this week, great. But it might be a week after. We're entering into the end of year testing time for schools, and that's tough. So I want to make sure I don't burn out. Plus, there's a lot of big games that are coming out, and we've always told ourselves this is hobby for fun and not work. So
I will disappear for Zelda. I apologize in advance. I will not be available during Mother's Day weekend. I will be disappearing into the world of Hyrule.
There you go. All right, guys, you can find us on all your podcast services. Find me on Twitter at InsipidGhost. Find Logan on Twitter at Capt_Logan. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yep. CAPT_LOGUN.
There we go. That's it for us, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.